Hey everyone, so my name is Zoe and today I'm going to be talking about music and cognitive processing in older adults. By understanding how music affects cognitive processing in older adults, we can use music and musical training as a cognitive intervention and foundation for programs to prevent or maintain cognitive skills in normal aging. So today we're going to look at how music provides cognitive benefits for older adults by enhancing verbal memory through encoding, providing benefits to processing speech stimuli, and improving cognitive abilities related to working memory. Okay, so the first question we're going to look at is how does music enhance verbal memory through encoding strategies? And to answer this, we're going to be looking at a study done by Ratovohare et al. So the purpose of this study was to test the effectiveness of music as a memory enhancer in healthy older adults. So by using music as a mnemonic strategy to learn new verbal information, they predicted that sung texts would be better remembered than spoken texts in healthy older adults. Participants included 30 healthy older adults and 24 young adults, and all participants were native French speakers, so this study was actually done in French, and precautions were taken to ensure that none of the participants were musicians and that none of them were experiencing cognitive impairment. So 3 texts were written about everyday life themes, and they were assigned to experimental conditions. The control condition was a text about activities and was spoken in a natural voice with a neutral tone. The positive music condition was a text about a shopping list and was sung and recorded on the Ode to Joy melody. And the negative music condition was a text about gardening, and this was sung and recorded on the funeral march melody. So all these texts were rhyming and were recorded by the same female voice, and each text had 8 lines with a comparable word count. So the procedure consisted of learning these 3 texts, and the order of presentation of the conditions was counterbalanced across participants of each group. Okay, so the intentional coding, this was when the entire text was presented and participants were asked to memorize it. So it was presented both auditory and visually. And this was followed by the encoding phase, in which the text was presented line by line. So participants were asked to repeat each line, and then the line would disappear, and they would have to retrieve it alone and memorize it. And so this was immediate recall. And encoding ability was measured by the number of lines learned during encoding and immediate recall score. Immediate recall was followed by a 10-minute retention delay, during which participants performed nonverbal interfering tasks, and then they were asked to perform a free recall. A 24-hour delay was also measured, and it was conducted by telephone, and the participants were not informed that this was going to happen in advance. So they found that older adults encoded fewer lines than younger adults across all conditions, and both groups had the best recall for the text in the positive music condition for the immediate recall, as well as the 10-minute and 24-hour delayed recalls. From this, we can conclude that sung lyrics were better remembered than spoken lyrics for short and long-term delays, and musical encoding seems to enhance verbal memory, but better recall performance is only present when the text is presented with a melody that is positively valenced. And so this provides evidence for what is called the positivity bias, which leads experimenters to predict that texts sung with a positively valenced music would have a greater musical benefit than those sung with a negatively valenced music. Okay, so the next question that we're going to look at is how can music improve older adults' ability to process speech stimuli? And to answer this, we're going to be looking at a study done by Zendel et al. The purpose of this study was to investigate whether musical training could improve the ability to understand speech and noise by modifying the underlying functional neurophysiology of older adults who are non-musicians. So basically they're looking at whether a causal relationship exists between short-term musical training and performance on auditory tests in older adults. There were 45 participants, all healthy older adults. However, due to some attrition for various reasons, only 34 participants completed the study. All participants were screened for cognitive impairment to ensure that they had no present or past major illnesses that would impact their performance. And experimenters also made sure that all participants were non-video game players and non-musicians. So a non-musician was defined as someone who doesn't currently play a musical instrument and has not had more than 3 years of formal musical. For the music group, the research assistant went to the participants' homes and installed a program called Synthesia, which was a software that allowed participants to take lessons and learn songs on a virtual piano on their computer. And so the research assistant went through an introductory lesson with them to make sure that they were comfortable with the software, and they were asked to complete a minimum of 30 minutes of training at least 5 days a week, although some completed more, and they tracked their daily training progress for the researchers. They were also told that there was evidence that musicians have enhanced cognitive abilities and that researchers expected musical training to improve these abilities. It's also important to note that all participants were blind to the existence of the two other groups. So for the video group, the research assistant went and installed the Wii console connected to participants' television and gave them an orientation on the console and the Super Mario 64 game that they are expected to play. Those in the video group were also told to complete a minimum of 30 minutes of training at least 5 days a week, although some completed more. These participants were told that there was evidence that video game training enhances cognitive abilities, and that video game training in older adults was expected to improve those abilities. The no contact group had no contact with the research team during the 6-month period other than to complete the pre, mid, and post-training sessions. All participants completed each testing session, and so the mid-training session occurred 3 months after the start of the intervention, and the post-training sessions took place 6 months after the onset of the intervention. In each of these sessions, participants completed a series of auditory and cognitive assessments, including a structural MRI, eye tracking, IQ, and working memory. During the testing sessions, participants were presented with 3 different noise conditions. There was no noise, quiet, and loud. So the no noise condition meant that there was no background noise. The quiet condition meant that the multi-talker babble was 15 decibels below the volume of the male speaker. And in the loud condition, the multi-talker babble was at the same volume as the speaker. While wearing an EEG cap, each noise level was presented in 2 listening conditions, active and passive. So in the passive condition, they were told to ignore the spoken words and watch a subtitled movie. And in the active condition, participants looked at the blank computer screen and were asked to repeat the words aloud when they saw an LED light flash. So in each condition, participants were presented with 150 words spoken by a male, and the same words were used in each condition, and to minimize the learning effect, the loud active condition was always presented first. They found that the music group improved their ability to understand speech in background noise, and that there was an increased activity in the frontal left electrodes after the onset of a word. This area of the activity is related to cortical areas associated with the speech motor system, and this means that the musical training may have strengthened auditory motor connections, resulting in improved speech understanding. So this study has shown us that music lessons improve the ability to understand speech in noise, and that musical training can be used to improve how older adults process speech and deploy their attentional resources to speech stimuli. The last study I will be presenting is by Bugos et al., and we will be looking at how music can improve cognitive abilities related to working memory. So the purpose of this study was done to investigate musical instruction as a cognitive intervention to prevent or maintain cognitive skills in normal aging. There's an age range of 60 to 85 years old, and 31 participants completed the study, with 16 in the experimental group and 15 control participants. Participants were assessed at 3 time points, pre- and post-training, as well as after a 3-month delay. They were measured at baseline using the advanced measures on music and audiation to detect any factors that may potentially affect one's musical learning ability. And subtests of the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale were also administered. And the subtests for digit span, block design, digital symbol, and letter number sequencing were repeated at all 3 assessment times. They also used trail making tests, which were used to assess visual processing and planning abilities. The experimental group received individualized piano instruction, which is a musical education program that required participants to attend a 30-minute session each week. They were also instructed to practice on their own for at least 3 hours a week, and they recorded their practice sessions and logged their practice time. They also received new assignments each week to build onto what they had already learned. Individualized piano instruction was found to increase cognitive abilities related to attention and concentration, contributing to overall working memory, and there was a significant increase in digit symbol scores for the experimental group, which indicated benefits on participants' perceptual speed and memory abilities. It is important to note that these gains did not remain after the 3-month delay. So from these findings, we can conclude that certain performance gains were made in areas not specifically trained for in the individualized piano instruction, showing transferability of the intervention to other cognitive domains. From these studies, we can conclude that music and musical training can provide cognitive benefits to older adults by enhancing verbal memory through encoding strategies, improving processing of speech stimuli, and generalizing improvements to other cognitive domains not specifically targeted by music. Thanks for listening.